Shalom Aleichem, welcome back to a Biselleh Torah. Hukkat is the parsha. But I'd like to begin at the outset of the book of Genesis, where there is a story that we are well familiar with. Adam, Eve, a snake, and God. In this particular episode that I'm referring to, Eve is having a conversation with the snake, or rather, I should say the snake is having a conversation with Eve, where she has misrepresented or misunderstood what has been told to her. She says, we cannot touch the tree. The snake says, look, I'm touching the tree. Nothing's happening to me, which is a total misrepresentation by Eve, not the snake. The snake is entirely correct. And then the snake goes on to say to Eve, God said you will surely die. You will not surely die. Eve's understanding of the law that has been given by God through Adam is that as soon as she eats the fruit, she will die. The snake corrects her and says, you will be mortal. You will no longer be immortal once you eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, but you will not die immediately, and as a result, your eyes will be opened from eating the fruit. Eve understands what the snake is telling her, takes the fruit, eats it, gives it to Adam, and then God turns to Adam and said, what have you done? Adam responds, it ain't me. It's her. It's this woman that you gave me. It's her fault. Turns to Eve, and God says, what have you done? And Eve says, it ain't me. It's his fault, the snake. If it weren't for him, everything would be fine. In this episode, which is the real first conversation that takes place in the Bible, the upshot of the story is that humankind likes to pass the buck, likes to blame one another. The story of Genesis is a story of blame. Fast forward to this week's Torah portion where snakes again appear, this time attacking Bnei Israel. They are biting the Israelites. Many of them are dying as a result of the wounds inflicted by the snakes with their venom. And then they turn to Moses and they say, Chatanu, we've sinned. Their understanding is that they have sinned because they've complained about the manna that God is giving them as sustenance throughout all of the years wandering through the desert. They were tired of it. And they complained, and then they say, Chatanu, we have sinned by our complaint. What has changed since the creation of the world all these generations later? What has changed is that the Israelites don't pass the buck. They don't blame anyone, but take full responsibility upon themselves. Now, whether they were correct or not about taking that responsibility for complaining about the manna, we could debate, but that's irrelevant. What is most relevant is the nation of Israel has grown up dramatically. And the way in which they've grown is by taking responsibility for their actions. You know, as do I and all people who are looking at the world through a clear lens, that we have a hand in everything that happens to us. We're not totally and always victims, but there's something to be learned from every experience that happens to us. And as Jews, we take this oh so very seriously. We can learn something from everything, even from something as dramatic as what happened in the Holocaust. There were lessons to be gained, learned from these experiences. We don't turn and pass the buck and just say, I am a victim, they're the victimizer, I had nothing to do with this, I'm totally innocent. Growing up is about pulling up our own pants and taking responsibility for who we are, what we have become, and what we've done. Not saying the blame game. This is an important and vital message that adheres in the Torah reading, both from Genesis as well as this week from the parsha of Hukkat. And it asks us each to take very seriously the question, can we take responsibility for who we are and what happens to us? Instead of geschreien Gewalt and saying, I had no part in this, and ergo I have nothing to learn from it. Jewish responsibility starts right here.